I think that everybody has the spark of creativity. It's part of who we are as human beings. I know that through lots of poor experiences and terrible teaching methods, schools tend to break that creativity in children. But I think that listening to interviews of someone like David Bowie, where he was just a genius. It was like, he literally seemed like a person from another world with his level of creativity, and how central it was to who he was as a person. But I think that, like, you have these hierarchies of, fine arts, regular arts, outsider art, that, like you get the sense that, like you have to be like this Leonardo da Vinci who can draw a perfect circle before you can really call yourself an artist or even creative. And creativity takes so many different points. There's more creativity in, a kid with a pack of crayons, and the back of a menu in a diner somewhere than there is in 100 so-called creatives. Because sometimes you really do have to just, like you have something and it's tickling at the back of your mind. But, it's like when you forget a word and you're like stomping around and you're like, damn, what's the word? And you end up and you're like, and you force it and like the harder you force it, the further it goes. Right. It's like trying to pick up a banana on ice. Like it's not going to happen, and the harder you force it. And that's kind of, I think that, part of my healing process from dealing with a lot of the kind of emotional traumas that I've had in my life is learning to respect my limits. That there are certain points where I know that if I push any further, it not only will make it harder, it will actually hurt the end product. Right? Like, it's just like, you have to learn to respect who you are and respect your brain and your limits and your spirit. Like sometimes an idea is there and it's like, it's warning you that it's coming, but it's not ready for prime time yet. Like it's a little shy and you gotta kind of coax it out of its hole. So I think that there are a lot of ways that people, like, when people ask you questions, and like some people like feel, oh, that person's really smart because I didn't understand a word he said, or that person's really smart because she was super impatient when she answered, right? That kind of like, that intelligence is kind of like this elitism. And my favorite author is Kurt Vonnegut. He was very fundamental in kind of how I developed mentally. I found his work very young. I read a lot of stuff when I was forming, like as a young adult, that were not intended for young adults. A lot of stuff. And he kind of borders on, he's an absurdist. And he also does a lot of sci-fi-ish, where he uses a sci-fi topic and then he just rambles about people. And his thing, he's a humanist and he believes in the kind of the sanctity of people. And that one of the things, another good quote is that anything that you can't explain to a 5-year-old is probably a lie. How do I deal with creative blocks? I mean, there have been various points where I haven't really, produced anything or felt motivated. And I mean, aside from times of stress or, emotional trauma, or really, at that point, when I hit a creative block, I know that I am working too hard with the logical side of my brain, and that I haven't let an idea kind of marinate in my subconscious long enough. I'm forcing it because for me, that creativity is it's like the engine that drives me. So I really end up with when I get to that, and there have been times it's either I need to take more time for myself, or I need to get out. I need to make a change. It's all about change. And then, you know, like you get a little spark of imagination. But I mean, everyone will go through dry periods. And it's one of those things where, you know, you just have to live with it. So sometimes, you know, like an idea just isn't ready yet, and you need to wait for it to be ready. Do I have a favorite quote? I think I tend to have some pretty irreverent quotes. My favorite one right now is actually somebody got me a t-shirt with this on it. Was that I have neither the time nor the crayons to explain this to you. And I think it really, I mean, it is kind of insulting. But I mean, sometimes you have to say, you know, enough is enough when you're trying to be understanding, right? That there's a certain line where you have to protect who you are as a person. I will argue, and I mean, part of my background, I mean, one of my degrees is in philosophy. So, I mean, I love to argue. I love to argue about things, and I love finding people who genuinely want to think about the world, discuss the world around them, and not just take things for granted. But people who are, you know, so closed-minded that there's no potential for discussion. I think at that point you have to cut your losses with certain types of people, because I find those people, they drain the vital juices out of me. They're like emotional vampires. And that's kind of what I make that thing. I mean, and I do mean it irreverently, that I find people fascinating. I think it's, you know, like I'm pretty introverted, but I like to think of myself as a very extroverted introvert. I need time alone. I need space. I need my own place to process the world. But if I don't rub shoulders with people or get out, even if it's something as simple as like going to the grocery store and saying, you know, hello to someone over the oranges, you know, or wow, the oranges look great today. Even a little tiny bit of human interaction is so important. But that's really the one it is that I really have neither the time nor the crayons to explain things to people who aren't willing to listen. Would I rather give up Italian cuisine or communicate with facial expressions only for the rest of my life? Knowing myself, I would have to say that I could give up no cuisine ever. That my love of food is so intense, I would rather go deaf and blind than lose the ability to taste. Like it would, like if I had to make the decision whether to wipe food off, you know, like any type of food off the map, or have some ridiculous like human ailment, I would take a ridiculous human ailment any day. I mean, do not mess with my snacks. Are there recurring themes or messages in my work? And I think about this over, I mean, you know, I'm more mature as an artist than I was, even 20 years ago, when I was quite young, and But the things that are always there is I'm always trying to push some kind of boundary, whether it's a boundary within myself or a boundary around me. And it's more of finding different ways to express something. But I mean, there are themes that I think that are really important. I think that the expression of one's voice has always been important. The nature of identity, having been born in, even moving within Canada sometimes can be a thing. Growing up in Montreal, in the French Canadian home, it's enough of a different culture that it's a different environment. And moving to southwestern Ontario, which is a lot kind of more conservative. And when I moved here, I found that my desire for my work to be more transgressive, to have a certain kind of, not naughtiness, but a kind of subversiveness, right? To poking at established structures. That's always been me. I mean, anybody who has a quote where like, I'm not willing to explain something. I mean, because I think that, your work should speak for itself. And one of the things I wanted to say is that you're not in charge. What is my favorite dish to make? That is a really hard one. I have like this rotating kind of desire, like not necessarily desire, but I have this rotating kind of passion every once in a while. I know some people are like, oh, they have like their one favorite meal. I'm a really annoying person that it is a spur of the moment. It reflects kind of like my creative spirit as well, and the way that I do things. Like so many things affect it. Like sometimes, like I'll be reading a book and it'll be set in some part of the world and it'll mention a particular dish. And then suddenly I'm obsessed. And it's like, I cannot sleep until I had that happen. I was reading a book that was set in New Orleans and they were talking about Cajun cooking, like jambalaya and all the stuff. And I'm like, I started salivating and I'm like, well, I'm off to the grocery store to buy stuff for jambalaya. Have personal hardships help me create? I mean, I think there's a perception that anybody who might call themselves an artist or creative, there's that kind of social convention that artists have to suffer for their art, and this idea of the poor, pathetic, damaged artist who scurries like a rat around the edges of society. And I think that's a really negative way of it. But I think hardship and struggle and conquering hardship and struggle and healing from it. I mean, not only is art and creativity an amazing tool for helping people. I mean, they have art therapy for a reason, but I think that, we don't grow as people when everything is hunky-dory. Right? Like we don't, everything, you don't want you don't want to be like the dinosaurs and the meteors coming level problems. But learning to deal with everyday struggle is part about becoming an adult and part of, accepting that there are limitations, right? Not everything is going to be easy. And that you have to work, like when you're working as a creative and, and you get onto there, it's not easy. It's, there's always a lot to learn, but I like to make like my work reflect some of the challenges I've had in my own experience. And I've been doing some of these kind of short videos that are almost, they reflect kind of the energy I have when I'm dreaming. Because my subconscious, I find, is entirely, like, my work is entirely dependent on my subconscious. That I will kind of put an idea, stuff it into my subconscious, and let it work out the details. And then, you know, like, it's that part of the untapped genius that's in there. Will I continue to be a creator until I pass away? I think that, you know, working in this particular, you know, medium, working in film, that may not last. But one thing has been consistent across my life, that ever since I was really young, I was very lucky that my older sister was an artist, and she had a studio in her house, and I used to go there all the time. And part of her thing was that if she was working on a project, and the thing is that if I'm not entertained, or if I'm not being stimulated in some way, I'm a pain in the butt. I still like that as an adult. If I'm not being engaged in some way, I tend to wander off and get in trouble. So I will always create, because whether it is something as simple as finding the best way to make a particular dish, or whether it is writing, which I've done in the past, or being a visual artist, I think that fundamentally who I am as a person is someone who feels the need to make something to share with other people. Because there were times where I was creating, but I didn't have an outlet for other people. And it's not that I want pats on the back. In fact, that, you know, like when I had a gallery show years and years ago, and I refused to go to the opening night because I didn't want who I am as a person to change people how they look at my art. Is that the art speaks for itself, the work speaks for itself, the creativity is the reason. And I just want people, whether they love it, hate it, want to chase me down and beat me up, or buy me dinner. Either way, once I've made something and I put it out there, I'm not responsible for it anymore. It has its own life now.